Hi there, Annette Lawler here, founder Lion People Global. Welcome back to our LT Talks, Localization Talent Talks, also available now as a podcast and downloadable from our website at www.lionpeopleglobal.com. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be chatting with consultants. These are freelance consultants, typically experts in their field that are available for hire either directly or through ourselves. And typically they have up to 20 years of experience in their given area of expertise, typically at the executive level within large language service providers or client companies across the globe. The first of those consultants is our very own Olga Blasco, talking to us about M&A and growth strategy. Olga is a 25-year veteran of the localization industry, working at the very high level in high growth M&A habitat for clients across the globe. She started life as a linguist and quickly pursued a journey in creating client solutions, getting things done and building teams across the world. She has held senior leadership positions in large companies like Lionbridge and We Localize. And now she works as a growth strategist, mentor, M&A expert, and social entrepreneur. She's on the board of the Rosetta Foundation within Translations Without Borders. And what drives her today is to tackle difficult situations, difficult business challenges, unlock potential, facilitate a way forward, and help businesses to drive value to get the best deal. If you bear with us for just a moment, we'll get Olga on the line and we'll be right back with you. Good morning, Olga. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good, Annette. How are you?
Good. Now, Olga, you're in Turkey today?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So how's this whole non-traveling been suiting a nomad like you?
It has been very, very extremely strange. I mean, to be static for a while and to have to rethink, your logistics has been very strange. But at the same time, it has been enjoyable, I have to say.
Okay.
Not to have to deal with airports and airport security and all of these things. And I have also realized that this kind of remote work that I have to do a lot of the time, everybody's getting used to it now. So I can see that more and more we will be avoiding travel as long as certain conversations can happen over Zoom. Why not?
Exactly.
But there's no substitute for human contact, though. I mean, if you have to have a sort of like a strategy meeting, like one of those 8-hour full day strategy meeting with someone, to do that over Zoom, I mean, there's no way you could do 8 hours.
Yeah. And actually, I've discovered that Zoom fatigue is a real thing. It's actually a real thing. So yeah, no. I mean, it's great not to be on a plane so much, but also, that human interaction. Definitely, we need some injection of it. So
yeah.
Well, brilliant. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us today. I have a few questions I kind of want to go through because I suppose the aim of today really is to give people a flavour of you and what you do and the kind of benefits that you can bring to an organisation. So we'll start off with just a couple of quick questions. I know you and we've worked together very closely, in particular on the M&A side of things, and you're always talking about helping owners through growth journey. So really, I suppose for you, it's managing growing pains, really. Can you elaborate a little bit more about what that means?
Yeah, sure. So, the first thing I'll say is that a growth journey is not everybody's choice by default. So for many people, having a business that reaches a certain level and gives them steady income is more than enough. But for many others that are very clear about the fact that they want to reach a certain value that will allow them to, move to the next level or retire on a certain lifestyle, growing pains are a real thing. And I would say that understanding what one wants is already something, because it's a good starting point before you start thinking of anything else. The thing is that even after you choose to run a growth company, after you identify whether revenue is going to be coming from new services, new solutions, new geographies, new sectors, after you decide what kind of client experience you want to offer, and even whether you want to add mergers and acquisitions to the mix, you also need to understand what it will take to get there. Where you need to invest, the financing you need, the talent you need, and how to manage all the moving parts and stay profitable in the process. Now, in terms of growing pains, I mean, typical issues that arise, for example, are there's business partners, owners of the business that are not aligned with the goals or even the pace of how things need to happen. So this can create friction. Or there is a need to restructure the company to set the foundations of profitable growth. And you need to do that without breaking anything and making sure that you're protecting the business. So all this can also generate tensions. Or you realize that an acquisition will require a lot of work in order to give you the return that you expect, while there is a high probability that maybe some key people will walk out disappointed. So this is why I think it's a good idea to have a very vivid picture that crystallizes in front of you a clear sequence of events, the key investments and the changes that you need to orchestrate, to get where you want to go. Another thing is, I think that you need to keep your aspirations realistic and aligned with the culture and the value of your organization. And you need to be ready for whatever the world throws at you. I mean, look at COVID-19. I mean, who was expecting that, right?
Exactly.
So in my experience, all these things that I'm talking about are never an easy thing to do, even at the best of times. So let alone in times of crisis. So whenever a business owner chooses to, grow year on year, I think that this must come with the clarity and acknowledgement that the journey will be very challenging and sometimes very, very hard. So you might benefit from the right supports and advice in the process.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And practically, how do they make it all happen to see results?
Yeah, I mean, like when I'm looking, to help somebody with all this, like the first thing is that you have to have a 360 view of the entire setup in the cold light of day and look at how each one of the areas is doing.
Mm-hmm.
what needs to be done and what the priorities are, and doing a deep dive as necessary, and then figure out how to communicate the way forward in a way that makes sense and keeps everybody involved, motivated, and engaged. And also be prepared to guide the process and make what looks very difficult achievable. So the things that I typically look at are the value drivers of a company, which are obviously the financial performance, the service offering and the brand reputation, that has been achieved over the years, the geographical presence in the market and the infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
and the operational model and technology. And my approach to discovery always involves a mix of conversation and data analysis. So it's as important to ask key questions and listen carefully to what's being said as it is to look at the numbers, the marketing materials, the systems, the processes, because never mind how sophisticated or big companies might be, I mean, the complete story of who you are comes from all of these things, not just the spreadsheets. Mm-hmm. And once I have the picture, then I can work on the solutions with the company owners and help them through the implementation, and sometimes even bring other experts to support the process.
Okay, excellent. So it's that combination really of tech, clients, operational structure. Any advice here on what's important or how to get that balance really?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I think that you really need to look at everything, doing deep dive as necessary. A lot of the questions that we ask are not necessarily easy to answer. Mm-hmm. And teasing out those answers requires being able to challenge what we know or what we think we know. I mean, this is a really big lesson learned in my life. Maybe there are many things we don't know, and we need to challenge ourselves to find out, to challenge our own echo chamber, Mm-hmm. So starting with the target clients. So like sometimes when I ask the question, what is your value proposition and your brand value? How is the company positioning yourself in the market? Maybe those things are very clear in the messaging of the company, but maybe the way that the salespeople are conveying that message is in direct contradiction with the messaging. Mm-hmm. So then you need to make a decision. Questions like, why would clients choose your company over another or not? Do you really know your competitors? What are the core competencies you're strong at? What are the key opportunities for development that if you put your mind to it, you could develop something else that would put you ahead of the competition? And after that, I think, it comes figuring out, how to put the right people in the right place, how to hire and develop talent, the technology that you need now and what you will need in the future,
Sure.
and the type of infrastructure and financial flexibility to achieve, the real results that you're looking for, and to make the company strong and sustainable, a business that makes a difference and that has the loyalty of clients, employees, and suppliers. And many companies really have great ideas and they have brilliant people. There is a lot of talent out there, and they all get tested in the execution, because it requires that focus and ownership and having an eye on all the interdependencies, and I think above all it requires perseverance. So no use to start with this kind of great energy and expect a big bang moment, and then leave it there. It's about the work that you do week after week, month after month, and measuring the results. Did this happen? Did it not happen? How well did we do at this? Are we running at the expected run rate? Should we review these goals? Should we prioritize this and leave the other thing for the following year? So, all of these things, they require somebody, extremely committed. And companies that are committed, they really make, a lot of progress in a relatively short time.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes I suppose they're so embedded in the day-to-day that having somebody external to examine that is key. I know from working with you very closely that one of your superpowers, certainly not mine, but one of yours would be the numbers. It's extremely important. And I suppose, on the day-to-day, sometimes you're emotionally involved, you're embedded in your clients, and you forget, the importance of the numbers. How important are the numbers at the end of the day, and what advice can you offer here?
Well, I don't know if it's my superpower, but quite a few people have commented on it over the years. I think the emotional attachment is normal. And it comes to light, especially when companies want to sell. That transaction of a lifetime for many people after years of hard work, with a view to retirement, or maybe business partners that decide to part ways. I stay, I go, etc. So sometimes when you're looking at the numbers, you can tell that the value aspirations that have been pinned on the brand, the client portfolio, and the expertise of the company will not be necessarily matched by the market. In other words, that the seller will not be getting the price they want and they think they deserve after all this hard work, unless their numbers show a story of steady growth in the top line and bottom line, that they show that they have client stickiness and they have real potential. For revenue growth without expensive restructurings, which are the norm in a few countries. So sometimes it's a really hard realization when you see that there is a big gap in expectations. But I think that deep down, most people I have spoken to, they understand that they either adjust to that market reality and they have to calibrate their expectations, or they need to make the necessary changes to drive the value up and get what they want. So I have worked with companies and helped them to get ready to show a good story by numbers, and they actually effectively sold for the price they wanted, after having worked side by side with them on the timing and the areas that needed addressing. So the duration of the process really depends on what needs to be done, and also depends on what kind of buyer shows up the door, and it's different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So, these are the main things. I think I want to say about numbers.
About numbers, okay. And also, I think there's a tendency to think about when you bring in an external expert in M&A that it's always about the seller getting the best deal. But I think, especially with the week we've just had, we've had couple of weeks with three major acquisitions, of course, RWS and SDL and Aculad and Amplexer and Big and ISI. So, it's really also the aftermath of that, isn't it? So it's bringing somebody in to help with that post-merger acquisition, because there can be horror stories there, in terms of even losing talent and clients. What kind of you offer on that side of things for buyers?
Yes. So after the history, I've had of the different mergers and acquisitions I have gone through, participated in, and advised on. I mean, I can mention that a few of the issues that happen, and that I have seen repeatedly happen. So I have seen, for example, a poorly anticipated and managed clash of organizational cultures that have impacted on the performance of the business and the dynamics of the team. Another example, buyer's remorse, like the company that buys another one is realizing during post-merger integration that the strategic synergies are just weak, and another target that you have let go would have been a better fit. And then you need to make it work, in a painful way. Another one would be having the wrong deal structure. Setting the wrong targets for the seller's earnout, can really drive integration dynamics in the direction that will affect for sure performance negatively, especially if the seller loses control on those targets and it creates friction. And this situation is particularly critical when there are private equity investors involved. And another typical one, a poor communications plan on who does what and why, can send people spinning in all sorts of directions and drive, the leadership team to distraction. So one of the big lessons learned and my advice as a result of that is that you need to have a post-merger integration plan and the priorities totally aligned with the transactions rationale and deal structure, so that there is confidence that the implementation will lead to a certain level of performance that will not be affected by any of this. And this is why it is also advisable that you have a draft plan ready to be discussed, ideally before signing the deal, before the deal is final and the deal is finally structured, and that this draft plan on everything, like the integration, how it's going to be communicated, who's going to be doing what, and all the different steps ahead, are properly finalized and implemented immediately after the deal is signed, with the right resources dedicated, so that the key items of that post-merger integration plan don't slip away, and especially important that the risks are properly managed.
Excellent. Great advice. So all in all, I think bringing somebody like yourself on for any of these stages is a really great decision for a company, depending on their circumstances. Olga, thank you so much for joining us today. You've been watching LT Talks, our new episode. You're welcome. Thanks a million for joining. You've been watching LT Talks, Localization Talent Talks. Thanks so much to today's expert, Olga Blasco, for joining us to share some excellent tips on growth strategy and M&A. Please tune in next week, where we'll be chatting to Laura Castellanos, machine translation expert. You can follow us on social for the next episode. All details coming up next. I'm Annette Lawler. Thank you for watching.